Well, today's going to be a fun episode because I'm sharing 25 hard truths that I've learned the hard way. Many of what I'm going to be sharing today came through thousands of coaching conversations. Some came through my own failures. Many came through faith, and some came from almost 10 years of living alcohol-free. And I will assure you that none of them came easy. I hope that you will stick around to the very end because the very last one that I'll be sharing is the one that I want to leave you with the most. So let's get into today's episode. Welcome back to Beyond the Gray. I'm Kari Schwear, your host. And if you are new here, welcome, welcome. And if you are an avid listener, I want to ask you for a huge favor. Would you consider liking, following, even commenting on this video or wherever you're listening to, and consider doing a 5-star review? That helps the show grow and reach other people, and I'm hoping that you'll take just a second to do that for me today. Thank you in advance. So today isn't about frameworks or a 5-step process or any guests, just me and you and 25 hard truths that I've learned the hard way. Like I alluded to, some of this came from coaching, some of it came from my own marriage and parenting, some came through faith, some came through questioning my own relationship with alcohol, and much of this will make you uncomfortable. I'm just being honest. Some might even make you laugh a little bit. At least I hope it will. My hope is that at least one of these will stick with you long enough after this episode ends that you'll think about it and you'll start to do something with it. So let's get into it. All right, we're going to do this in under 25 minutes, and here we go. Truth number 1, you're not hiding it nearly as well as you think you are. And if you're already asking, what is she talking about? You already know. I'm talking about your drinking, your wandering eye for somebody else, the stress that you're feeling. Maybe it's the loneliness that you're experiencing or the anxiety or the overworking. Can I tell you that your spouse is already picking it up? They're seeing what's happening. And your kids, they're also seeing it. And your coworkers probably know. The only person that you're fooling is yourself. And I know, that's a tough one to swallow, but it is true. When you can get honest with yourself and you stop trying to fool others is when things start to change. All right, let's talk about truth number 2. You don't have a drinking problem. You have a peace problem. Can I share with you that alcohol was never my issue? It was my solution to find my inner peace, for me to feel more confident and feel more vibrant, like I actually was doing something great with my life. That worked. It worked. Alcohol works so well until it no longer works, until I found a better solution. So my message for you today is stop blaming the alcohol. Yes, it may be an issue, especially if you're a gray area drinker, but there are solutions that you can do to start to tap into that inner peace, which is what we're all searching for at the end of the day. It's not enough to say it's just a drinking problem. There's always something else that is stirring within you, whether it's with your marriage or your work or the worriment of money or whatever it is that is going on in your life. All that can be addressed. It can. We all are desiring that peace. So when you work on one area, what's truly causing the drinking in the first place, that becomes the real solution. Now let's talk about truth number 3. Healing never starts with confidence. It starts with honesty. I've already alluded to that a few times now, that every breakthrough that I've ever witnessed with a client, even in my personal transformation, all started with someone or myself finally telling the truth. You know, it takes a lot of courage to be willing to look at all the facts that are going on in your life. You can make some changes, but until you're willing to actually look at it, nothing changes. Nothing changes until something changes. That is one of my sayings that I like to tell my clients. You can keep going down this path, but until you decide that you're going to change something, nothing will change. And it all begins with going inward and being willing to share the truth. Okay, this next one is a really good one, and it is something that you might not expect. Number 4 is information has never changed your life. Decisions have. I'm being serious. There's so much information out there. We are in an informational age, right? You can pick up your phone and find anything out. You don't need more information. Decisions that you decide to make is where the action happens. That's where you'll know. You already know that you have had enough, right? You've reached that point. You just haven't decided whether or not you're going to move forward or not. So stop searching for information and start looking inward for those decisions that you know you can make. Okay, number 5 is one that just sort of gets me every time. That is, comparison is the cheapest excuse for staying stuck. I know you've done this. I know you have. At least I'm not like so-and-so. I did that all the time. I lived there for years. I would always compare my situation to somebody else. Well, I don't drink like they do. I don't drink every day. I don't drink hard liquor. I don't drink a bottle of wine every night. I don't do this. I don't do that. Really? Let me tell you something. When we start comparing ourselves to somebody else, it's a very dangerous place to be. And you know what it does? It keeps you comfortable. It gives you the excuse that you can keep doing what you've always done and maybe expect a different result. Doesn't work that way. That is what I call the comfort trap. If you are unwilling to make some changes and you want to stay comfortable, then you cannot be using the excuse of comparison when you're looking at somebody else. All right, let's move to number 6. The strongest people I know are willing to cry. I work with a lot of men, and I will tell you that vulnerability is not a weakness. They might initially think it's a weakness. It's actually courage. Some of the most powerful men I've ever had the opportunity to work with or guide or be friends with, or anybody in my circle, or even women, strong women for that matter, if they're holding everything in and they're not willing to be vulnerable at the most vulnerable state they could possibly be in, things don't change very easily. It takes a lot of courage to be willing to let things out, to share what's on your mind and on your heart and what's truly going on inside. And when you're able to do that, not only is it courage, it's actually the promoter of healing overall. So I encourage you that if you have been stuck in this trap of I can't show my emotions, I can't let anybody know what's going on, it actually takes a lot of courage to be that person that says, hey, I got something I want to talk to you about and share. Just remember that when you are strong is when you're willing to be vulnerable. Now, truth number 7 is very close to number 6, and this is it. Most men over 50 haven't had an honest conversation in years. Again, because I coach a lot of men, this happens a lot. They'll be willing to admit it to themselves, but to have an honest conversation with a loved one or a coach or a friend even is very difficult to do. Yet, when they're able to, when they're really able to open up and share what's on their heart, it is wonderful what happens. It's a dangerous place to be, and it's heartbreaking in a sense when men, particularly men, don't feel comfortable enough to be able to share with another human being. If that's you, I encourage you, if something's going on inside, you've been worrying about something, or there's a health issue with a family member or even with yourself, or you're dealing with all of this stress, and a lot of it comes with our inability to tell ourselves the truth. If all that's happening inside, being willing to have that one honest conversation, starting with yourself, is so beneficial. So again, it's a hard truth to know, but it is one of those things that happens. So if you're one of those guys, maybe it's time that you sit down and start having an honest conversation with you first and with God, and then maybe bring it to somebody else. All right, let's talk about lucky number 8. Success doesn't solve misalignment. Oh my gosh, I've seen this for myself even, let alone my clients that I've worked with. You can build the business, you can buy the beautiful home, you can even have a Ferrari in your garage, and yet still feel empty. How is that possible? You know, people from the outside looking in might think, wow, I hope to be like that someday and have all the success. But unless you have this deep fulfillment within, you're still going to be empty. All the riches in the world will never completely fill that hole. And that's such a hard lesson to learn for a lot of people. That's why they'll turn to alcohol. Maybe that's why you have. That's why I did. It's one of the reasons. You know, I thought if I just reach this next step or this next big pinnacle of achievement, I'll then be happy. I'm sure you've said that before or heard that phrase, but it's not true. The only thing that can fill this hole is having a deep connected relationship with your creator. At least that's my belief. And I hope that you believe that too. And until you're willing to go that deep and be willing to search for it and build that relationship, there's always going to be this sense of emptiness in your heart. All right, let's move on to truth number 9. The day I stopped waiting for someone else to change my life is when my life changed. My marriage, my business, my family, everything changes when you decide to take ownership. I can't begin to tell you how many people will reach out to me and say, Kari, my wife is drinking too much, or my cousin's drinking too much, or, oh man, if I could only change so-and-so from doing X, Y, or Z, then things would be better. I wish that we could just, muster up enough positive thinking for someone to want to change, but that's not how it works. Change always starts with the person. There must be agency for you or that person that wants to change in order for that change to occur. You can't will it enough for somebody else. It has to be done by themselves. Ownership is what truly changes everything. All right, let's move to truth number 10, one of my favorites. The best decision I ever made was also the scariest one. You probably know this truth. That is how growth works. Whenever you're faced with a decision and you're scared and it feels like it's not going to work out and you're willing to take that leap of faith is when everything changes. There's this growth spurt that happens that you're like, I had no idea that I was capable of doing that. And yet, when we're willing to take that one step forward, and sometimes, oftentimes, that first step is by far the hardest. Don't be afraid to take that first initial step into what you really want in your life. Number 11, alcohol wasn't the hardest thing that I gave up. Identity was. For a long time, I wore this big badge across my forehead that said, I'm a victim. Started when I was very young, moving around. My parents divorced. I went to 12 different schools in just 9 years. I never was with the same set of friends. And for whatever reason, I decided to wear this badge across my forehead all the way into my 30s and even into my 40s that I was a victim. Because of that, that's why I'm like this. Can I tell you, that is such an excuse. But when you're willing to let go of the identity of who you used to be and you decide that you are moving into the person that you want to be, that's when things drastically shift in your life. Letting go of that version of myself was a little hard, to be honest with you, because I felt like I always had an excuse to fall back on. But that's not where growth is. Growth is when you're willing to move into the person or the version of yourself now, even before you get there. And if you heard any of my decide method, the I in decide is the ability to have an identity shift. We have to be willing to let go of the former self so we can move into our future self, the one that God has designed you to be. I love this one so much. It is the one that makes all the change happen and last. All right, truth number 12, one of my absolute favorites. If your morning routine is taking longer than 2 hours, you may be avoiding your life. Listen, I'm all for a great morning routine. Matter of fact, we have a cold plunge at our home, a sauna. I love to journal and work out and do Wim Hof breathing and prayer time, all the things. But if it's going to take me longer than 2.5 hours plus, I might be procrastinating on starting my workday. Listen, I am encouraging you to have a strong morning routine, or maybe if you're not a morning person, a strong afternoon routine or a strong evening routine. It's not about fitting the good things in. It's about, are you balancing your day in order for you to do the things that are of importance while still honoring the things that you want to do to strengthen your body, your mind, your health, all those things. So just be careful. How much are you actually doing and calling it your personal time? Just something to think about. Lucky number 13, you'll spend more money maintaining your car than you will protecting your health. I will tell you, this is another one that I see a lot. There are so many, especially men, they'll be so fixated on their beautiful car and spend tons of money maintaining that. And yet you look at them and you think, when was the last time you've gone to the gym? When was the last time you actually had a vegetable? Just asking. Because what I see a lot of times is we're pouring money into these outside things, whether it's the golf game or the car or the house or the next trip. How about we start focusing on our temple, the one that God gave you, the one and only He gave you, your body. Your health is truly wealth. And when you start investing in yourself with your health, you can live a much longer and stronger life. Kind of common sense, but it was worth pointing out. Number 14, prayer is the most underused resource in my life. Oh, I learned the hard way on this one. I kept thinking that I could just get through my day all on my own until I realized, oh no, God's actually in control. Even today, I have to remind myself that I am still learning here. I am still a work in progress. But if I don't incorporate prayer every single day, my life isn't going to be that resourceful. It's not going to be as rich. It's not going to give me as much peace as I would like. Always start your day in prayer, and it truly is an underused resource. God wants to give you the things of your heart if it's meant for you. And if He feels like you're meant to have it, don't forget to pray and honor the one who gave you this one and only life. Speaking of God, let's talk about truth number 15. Oftentimes, people can misrepresent God. You know, I see this a lot with church hurt. People who grew up in a church and then all of a sudden something happened, somebody upset them or made them mad and they ended up leaving, or they didn't like the pastor or the priest or whatever. And then the next thing you know, they're confusing people with God. Big issue there, because God is not wrong. God doesn't make mistakes. God is perfect and He's good. And when we confuse people's actions, whether it's people or the church or an organization or whatever, we tend to misrepresent who He is. That is one of the biggest lies and the biggest things that I've learned over the number of years, not only with myself, but with people that I've been able to coach, is that there's always a story somewhere in their background that says, hey, this happened, and then I kind of walked away for a while. I encourage you, if that's happened, don't blame God. Look upward and use the previous truth about prayer. Let's talk about your calendar. This is truth number 16. Your calendar will tell you the truth about what is your priority in your life. It's true. What does it look like on a daily basis? How about a weekly basis or a monthly basis? Are you doing the things that will edify and build up your health and your body and your relationships and your spiritual relationships and your business? Are you doing those things every day? Are you putting in the reps for that daily discipline that will buy you that freedom? Something to consider and think about. Truth number 17, the people who need the most help are usually the ones that are best at hiding that they need help. I see this again all the time, especially with men, because they don't want to admit that something is wrong. They don't want to admit that they're weak. They don't want to admit that they don't have everything figured out. And even my ladies can fall into this trap too. I will tell you that the strongest people that appear strong on the outside are the ones who are struggling the most inside. If that's not you and you know somebody that I'm describing, check on them and ask them. Take them out for lunch. Take them out for coffee. Have a heart-to-heart with them and ask them, how are they really doing? Try to get them to open up. Because again, if you keep everything inside, that's not healing, that's hiding. 18, I've never had a client regret making a courageous change. Not one, and I doubt that I ever will. There's not one person that has ever worked with me and said, man, that was stupid. I should not have made that change. I should have kept drinking. Not one, not ever. Or I should have gotten back with my wife, or I shouldn't have rekindled my relationship with God, or I shouldn't have done that one thing that brought me back with my kids again in a strong relationship. That never happens. So when you're thinking about making a change and it feels like it's hard and you step out in courage, like we talked about earlier, is when things drastically improve. Don't be afraid and don't worry about having any regrets about doing a change that's good for you. Number 19, action creates clarity. Waiting creates doubt. You know, the more you sit in that doubt phase, the longer it's going to take for you to actually move forward. Sometimes you just got to jump in the pool. Do you remember the big high dive at pools? I remember standing at the edge of that, just gently bouncing up and down like, oh dear goodness, I can't believe I'm actually going to do this. But the moment that I did finally jump, it was so fun and exhilarating, and I couldn't wait to do it again and again and again. I was scared. I certainly had doubt. But when you have the willingness to jump, it creates clarity for you. So no matter what situation you're currently in, when you're willing to take that action, and yeah, maybe diving off the high dive or at least jumping off the high dive, you will then lose that doubt that you've been feeling. I promise it works every time. Number 20, this one might hurt. Your kids are watching, and they're still watching, even if they're grown. My kids are in their 30s, and they're still looking at us for guidance. They look up to us, thank you, God, and they're wondering, like, how are we handling certain things? Don't think just because even if your kids are grown that they're not watching you and trying to emulate you as an adult. So even if they're grown, they're still got their eyes on you. Truth number 21, you can be deeply grateful and still want more. Those things can coexist. And again, I've seen it over and over again over the years, that you can have everything that you want. You can be grateful for your health and your life and your wife and your kids and all the things that you own, but you still want more. And guess what? That's okay. It's totally fine. As a matter of fact, I think it's a good thing because that means you're still growing. You can still want more and still be grateful. They do coexist quite well. Let's talk about truth number 22. You can't heal the life that you're still hiding. Secrets will keep you sick, and truth will set you free. The more you are willing to be honest with where you are, again, we've talked about this a few times in these truths, the better and faster things will happen for you. Number 23, peace begins where pretending ends. Kind of goes with the last one, right? You will have that internal peace when you decide that you're going to stop pretending that everything is okay. The word fine is one of the craziest words out there because there is no such thing as fine. All right, we're getting down to the end here. Number 24, God didn't ask me to become someone else. He invited me to become who He has created me to be. When I realized that truth, that's what brought me freedom. I've tried many times in my life to be better or to be somebody different. And when He finally said, Kari, that's not what I'm asking you to do, I'm inviting you to move into the woman that I've created you to be. I've given you these spiritual gifts. I've given you the things that I know are going to help. And when you're willing to really adopt those and listen to my voice, is when you're going to receive the things and the gifts that I'm going to give you. That, my friend, is true freedom. And I hope that you will hear those same words for yourself. All right, I saved the best for last. Number 25. There is life beyond the gray. Now, I know what you're thinking, Kari. You're just saying that because it's the name of your podcast. I'm saying it because I've lived it. 10 years alcohol-free, and my life has completely changed. I have a better marriage, better health, more peace. I have a better relationship with God and better relationship with myself. There really is another side. We don't have to think that this is it. There is changes ahead if you want it. So as I read through all 25 of those, which one hit you the hardest? You don't have to try to remember all 25 of them. Even if you just remember one that I shared with you today, will you sit with it this week? I encourage you to talk about it. I encourage you to pray about it and do something with it. Because here's the truth, number 26 is a bonus. You don't have to change everything today. You just have to stop pretending that nothing needs to change. That's the important part. Own what is going on inside. Own your truth. When you let go of the pretending, that's when your life will start to improve in ways that you had no idea that it could. Thank you so much for being with me today. This was fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope a lot of this rung true for you and that you are willing to do something with it. I'll see you back next week on Beyond the Gray.